It's been extremely well documented just how much Tennessee and head coach Rick Barnes have struggled in the NCAA Tournament. Since Barnes got to Tennessee in 2015, the Volunteers have undoubtedly been one of the most consistent teams in the sport, but have failed to parlay their regular season dominance into any legitimate postseason success. Tennessee has made a tournament every single year since 2018, and while the Vols have gotten no worse than a 5 seed in each of these seasons, that still hasn't stopped them from losing to a team seeded lower than them in every single tournament under Barnes. While we all know there's a certain amount of luck that plays into each edition of March Madness, the fact that Rick Barnes has been on the wrong side of so many of these March runs is definitely cause for concern. I mean, hell, just last season I made a video warning you about Tennessee after their hot start and telling you not to trust them in the tournament, and turns out I was kind of right, as they did make the Sweet 16, but still lost to a 9th seeded Florida Atlantic in that round.
You guys all think I'm a hero, and I'll accept that responsibility.
But this year I've kind of changed my tune on Tennessee. Despite a lot of things with them remaining the same. They are still a defense-first team, they still have been tearing up the regular season, and they still have a lot of the same roster from a year ago. But one thing that's changed is the addition of Dalton Knecht, and he is going to make all the difference. When you think of Tennessee basketball under Rick Barnes, you immediately think of defense. Since 2021, the Volunteers have finished no worse than 4th nationally in adjusted defensive efficiency per Bart Torvik, and that has largely been the side of the ball keeping Tennessee in the national contender conversation. While the defense gave them a very reliable floor every year though, you could argue that their rather pedestrian offensive production somewhat limited their ceiling. Outside of 2019, where the Vols had the 3rd best offense in America thanks to the likes of Grant Williams and Admiral Schofield, Rick Barnes hasn't had an offense that ranked in the top 30 nationally during his time in Knoxville. And perhaps a cruel irony of this is that 2019 also represented one of Barnes' worst defenses during his tenure. No matter what Tennessee does, they just can't seem to get both sides of the ball clicking at the same time. This season though, Tennessee might have finally put it all together. The Volunteers have continued their defensive dominance, but they actually are in decent position to have a top 20 offense by season's end as well. And this is due in large part to 6'6" transfer Dalton Knecht. After starting his career in the junior college ranks, Knecht jumped up to Division I in 2021, where he played 2 seasons at Northern Colorado and averaged 20 points a game and took home all Big Sky honors last year. Seen as one of the more coveted players in the transfer portal this past offseason, Knecht chose to play at Tennessee, and the results have been phenomenal. Through 20 games, Knecht is averaging a team-leading 20.2 points per game while knocking down 40% of his threes, and his polished offensive game has given a little bit more legitimacy to a Tennessee program that has always seemed to lack a spark on that end. Knecht is the first Tennessee player to average over 19 points a game since Kevin Punter put up 22 a game in 2016, and in the process, he's given Tennessee a go-to perimeter scorer that can flat-out carry an offense, which for a program that has been known to go on extreme runs of offensive futility, is extremely valuable. What makes Knecht so dangerous as a scorer is ability to get shots in a variety of settings. He's an explosive athlete who can attack defenses in transition, he can knock down perimeter shots off the catch, he can fly off screens into jumpers, he just has the complete package when it comes to getting buckets. On the ball, Knecht is a powerful driver who has the strength to finish through contact along with the acceleration to get to the rim frequently, and he does a great job of gliding and elevating around the basket to finish over and through shot blockers. Like here, where he gets the ball in transition and then totally clears this Georgia defender, leading to an and one. Knecht's knockdown shooting ability also adds to his overall threat level as a scorer, and what makes him so difficult to defend is that, again, he can get to his long ball in a bunch of ways. He's great at flying down the floor and finding space in transition. Watch here how he runs down the floor and is able to sneak behind the defense to knock down a corner 3. And he's also reliable as a floor spacing wing off the ball, not only because of his spot-up shooting, where he's hitting 38% of his triples, but also because of his ability to create opportunities off of his shot, as he is great at attacking closeouts and either hitting mid-range jump shots off the dribble or getting to the rim and finishing. Like here, where he attacks a late closeout and then finishes with absolute authority. Perhaps the most electric thing about Knecht though is just his overall explosion factor. Knecht has already had 5 30-plus point games so far, and he saved most of his best efforts for SEC play, as he's averaged 28 points per game in 7 conference games, and some of these have been downright heroic efforts, like a few weeks ago where he dropped 39 of Tennessee's 85 points against Florida en route to a 19-point victory, during which he scored 20 points in 7 minutes to close the first half, or just 3 days earlier where he scored 36 points against Georgia to lead the Vols to a gutsy win on the road, 10 of which came in the last 4 minutes to help put the game away. It's these types of moments where the importance of Dalton Knecht is so visibly apparent. Having a reliable and efficient alpha scorer who isn't afraid of taking tough shots can cover a lot of offensive deficiencies, and Knecht has lifted this Tennessee offense accordingly. All of a sudden, the Volunteers don't freeze in late clock situations, they don't get stuck as much, and frankly, they just look more competent. And all of this, I think, is due to the emergence of Knecht. Tennessee's offense isn't perfect, they aren't a great outside shooting team, they don't get to the free throw line as much as they should, and they don't have many secondary scoring options, but because of Knecht, those issues don't totally cripple Tennessee like they have in previous years. Think about this. In their last 3 NCAA tournament losses, Tennessee has scored 56, 68, and 55 points respectively. And if their opponents hit timely shots, like last year with Florida Atlantic or 2022 with Michigan, they were kinda screwed because they didn't have any offensive firepower to respond to opponents' scoring runs. But 2024 should be different, because Knecht's high-volume ability to score efficiently at all 3 levels gives them an insurance policy that they haven't really had before under Rick Barnes. And the one thing that really seemed to kneecap their March runs in the past no longer seems applicable. Tennessee has only put up less than 70 points 4 times this year through 20 games, and they've shown they can compete with teams in the 70s and 80s in addition to the 50s and 60s. Now, of course, Knecht can't fix everything. I mean, just yesterday, Tennessee lost to South Carolina at home, only scoring 59 points on abysmal 36, 23, 60 shooting splits as a team. And that was with Knecht scoring 31 points and leading a late charge to almost give Tennessee the win. But instead of focusing on the loss, I think it's more telling to discuss just how much Tennessee would have lost without Knecht. 20, 25 points. With 11 made field goals, Knecht literally made more shots than the rest of the Tennessee team combined, and the fact that Tennessee was even in the game given how lifeless their team offense looked, somewhat gives me hope moving forward, in a weird, twisted way. So, I've always been a Tennessee doubter. I never trusted their offense, and when you paired that with Rick Barnes' shoddy tournament resume, I just could never convince myself of them doing anything of consequence in the NCAA tournament. But this year, with Dalton Knecht leading the charge on offense, and yet another nationally elite defense, it looks like the Volunteers might have finally figured everything out. Thanks so much for watching, and give me your thoughts below.